I used to only occasionally get depressed, but lately it seems like an ongoing stream of depression. I cry a lot and want to be alone. Things that make me angry and sad are never very big things. It's just that they happen one on top of another, and they build up inside. My grandmother died last week, and we had to bury her. You're gonna die anyway. Why bother to live? I don't deserve my parents. Everybody says how wonderful they are. They try to help me, but everything they do just makes things worse. I don't bother telling my friends about my problems. They're too wrapped up in their own lives. No one understands me, understands what I'm going through, that I hurt inside. I do have good days, but even during the best days, the sadness is there, ready to jump out at me. Everyone thinks I have a great life, nice family, good grades, new car, and inside I'm miserable. I don't know where I'm going. Every day I just sit on my bed, stare out the window, feel horrible for hours at a time. I watch TV, but never remember what I watched. My mind races in awful thoughts. Only when I cry can I finally fall asleep. I've tried suicide before. I have a scar on my wrist. I find myself rubbing it when things get bad. About the only time I'm happy is when I'm talking to people online. They don't know me and my problems, and they give me a fresh chance. If I start to feel bad, I can always sign off. No one seems to care. I've started to hate myself. I feel like I'm locked in a box and there's no way out. My life is a total wreck. I must be the most depressed person on earth. I wish I could go to sleep and never wake up. The pain would all be over with.
Adolescence is a turbulent time for most of us. New hormones flood the bloodstream and forever change our bodies and the way we view ourselves and others view us. Adolescence is an era of heightened sensitivity, of behavioral experimentation and even rebellion. Adolescence is a time of dramatic emotional highs and even more dramatic emotional lows. And with this can come depression.
I think all teenagers are somewhat vulnerable to experiencing depression. I think that there is a fragility in self-esteem as we develop. On any given day, a teenager can feel on top of the world, and the emotion can be very high and positive. It does not mean that there is a protection against feeling very down the next day.
Some depression is a typical reaction to normal everyday events. If you have to leave the town where you were raised and where all your friends are, and you go to a new town with new friends, you're going to be depressed. You're going to feel insecure. And that in and of itself is not a bad thing or a good thing. You just have to ensure that the causes for the depression are addressed. So you make new friends, you meet new people, you go out and do different things.
In simple terms, depression can be viewed as mood sickness, or an illness which causes a disturbance in a person's emotions and feelings. When a teenager is suffering from depression, his or her life experience is altered.
Mild depression might include crying, extended periods of despondency, sadness. A lot of boys will express anger, and that usually masks depression. Boys tend to act out, and of course girls tend to act in. So, boys might fight more, they might argue more, cuss more to teachers, etc. Girls, they might do a lot of self-mutilation, cutting their arms, legs, a lot of sexual acting out.
The symptoms may manifest with them being sad, a loss of energy, not getting much pleasure out of activities, a tendency to isolate themselves, to be withdrawn, not much enthusiasm for life.
Sometimes I feel like I'm in another world. I just don't know why. My friends ask me why, but I just don't tell them, I don't understand.
The most typical symptoms would be sleeping and eating disorders, either sleeping too much, not sleeping enough, having disrupted sleep, having sleep that's not restful. And oftentimes you see teenagers that quit eating, or their eating patterns change drastically, either not very much or overeating. And in girls, a lot of what you see is bulimia and anorexia, which is fairly well hidden in most cases.
Most people experience mental and emotional ups and downs on a daily basis as part of normal reactions to their environment, to other people, to challenges posed by situations at school or work. This is normal and typical of the human condition. What is not normal, and what should raise a red flag, is when the down moods do not go away, when you find yourself depressed for weeks at a time.
Usually you see changes in behavior. Sometimes you see a lot of acting out is one end of the continuum. The other end of the continuum is a lot of isolation from friends and peers, a lot of disinterest in activities that they would typically be involved in, like sports or hobbies.
And then you have some kids who it manifests itself totally different, where they're more active, easily irritable, angry, maybe engages in some antisocial behavior, substance abuse, maybe drink to try to medicate for the depression.
Sometimes depression, it's called like smiling depression. You may talk to somebody and they seem so happy and carefree and it's all big smiles. Or you may see somebody that's working so hard at being an athlete or being a good student, and really what some of those teenagers may be doing is overcompensating. They feel real bad, they mask it by overexcelling.
Instances of serious depression can be brought on by three major factors: biological, genetic, and/or social environmental. Among biological factors that cause depression is the delicate balance between all the chemicals in the body. Sometimes neurotransmitters or biological chemicals in the nervous system become imbalanced and cause erratic mood swings or depression.
We know that people who have a predisposition to depression, there is a problem in the chemicals in the brain. There's a problem with the serotonin levels. The level of serotonin is lower than what it should be, so that in itself will cause a problem with depression.
For some people, I do believe that it's physiological. Their body's just not hooked up right. I know for some people that I've seen, when they have severe allergy attacks, either environmental allergies or food-based allergies, sometimes they can get real depressed because they feel so poorly.
And we know that teenagers with physical abnormalities or significant health problems are more likely to experience depression.
Teenagers from families with a history of depression have a greater risk than the general population of becoming depressed themselves.
Another very significant factor has to do with the family history and genetic background, because we know that there is a higher incidence of depression in families where there is a first-degree biological relative.
I try to talk to my mom about things, but she never listens. She always criticizes me about not doing things, not being active. I want to talk to her so much, but she's too preoccupied with herself to even listen to my problems.
If I deal with a child and that child is depressed, 9 times out of 10, the parent is also depressed. And that child may come from a system that is in denial about the depression that's within their family system. Parents sometimes don't want to deal with their depression and want to deny their own depression. So they'll facilitate and promote their children not to be aware of their depression, and will be upset with anyone that tries to bring that to their attention.
The most nebulous causes for depression are those resulting from a teenager's social environment, as there exists a wide range of possible experiences and subsequent reactions to those experiences.
Parents getting divorced, difficulties with the parents, feeling like the parents don't understand them, like the adults around them don't understand them, like they can't live up to the parents' expectations or the expectations of the adults around them. problems with the peers, feeling like they don't belong, feelings of hopelessness, feelings that, that their lives are not going to get better, that they are not feeling like they're worth anything, not feeling like they can do anything right in their lives.
No matter how hard I try, I can't do anything right. Nothing I do seems to work. Nobody even wants to be around me.
They attach negative feelings to everything that comes their way. So if somebody approaches them, they're going to automatically put a negative slant on it. And they're going to take it as it's their fault that people are lashing out at them. It's their fault that their teacher yelled at them and said, "Get out of my class."
For an adolescent, certainly wanting to succeed in school or academically and wanting to get into the best schools and maybe not being able to do that, that can certainly lead to feelings of depression.
Depression is not altogether bad. If somebody dies, you'd expect somebody to be depressed. If you're undergoing a divorce or separation, I mean, that's a common reaction. Where it gets troublesome and problematic is if it continues for too long, or if the severity is such that it hampers typical functioning.
In general, psychologists and others who specialize in identifying and treating adolescents would say a major depression is present when an individual exhibits 5 or more of the following characteristics for a period of 2 weeks or more. Difficulty in thinking clearly or concentrating on work. Having feelings of worthlessness or hopelessness. Harboring inappropriate or excessive guilt. Being constantly fatigued, having little energy. Having disturbed or fitful sleep or sleeping too much. Experiencing a loss of appetite or radical weight change. Loss of physical agility or motor coordination. An unwillingness to spend time with close friends. Being sad all the time, being anxious or numb. Crying a lot for no particular reason. Grades in school have dropped off sharply. Feeling irritable. Everyone and everything annoys you. Constant headaches, stomach aches, chest pains for no reason. Loss of interest in things you enjoy. An inability to have pleasure. Increased thoughts of death or suicide.
I know I'm depressed. I want to feel better, but what can I do?
Definitely reach out to someone, anywhere. Preferably the parents first, and to a friend if they feel more comfortable with a friend. I mean, it depends on each kid and their circumstances, but they have to reach out to a friend or a parent, and hopefully the parents, if they feel that they can't help the child negotiate through that depression, they can hook them up with a counselor or someone that can.
Teenage depression is something that must be addressed, and it shouldn't be dismissed. A lot of times I'll hear parents saying, well, they're kind of down, they just broke up with their boyfriend or girlfriend, and oftentimes it's a dismissal. Well, I've been through that, they can get over it. Well, mom and dad may have gotten over it, but Johnny or Susie may not for whatever reason.
One of the primary ways adolescent depression is treated is through counseling or therapy, whereby a teenager can talk about things that are bothering them or making them depressed.
One of the real benefits of therapy is to externalize the feelings rather than continuing to hold them inside and internalize those feelings. When feelings are externalized, there is an opportunity to look at them in a different light, a different perspective, and there's also an opportunity to gain support and recognition for how the teenager is feeling.
It's easier for the girls to talk about the depression. The guys, you know, they want to be macho and they want to be tough, and a lot of the kids that come here in gangs, and so it's not good for their image to talk about having low self-esteem, having a hard time falling asleep at night, and worrying about their mother, and things of that nature. But eventually we get there.
Through counseling, what we teach children, people who are depressed, to do is that, no, you're not, this doesn't, the fact that you got a D in a class or an F in a class doesn't mean that you're a failure, but maybe biology just isn't your strength, and maybe you can look at the other areas where you really do excel, like English or sports or music, and get them to focus on the other things in their lives that make them feel good about themselves, where they do excel.
In order for any kind of counseling or therapy to work, the depressed teenager must be ready and willing to change, to put forth the necessary effort to get better.
A lot of these kids and a lot of people, when they're in a desperate situation or in circumstances that the average person wouldn't want to be in, and they don't even want to be in, will stay in those situations because they're comfortable with it and because it's something that they know. And the unknown frightens them more than that difficult situation that they're in.
Is this a person that's ready to get out of their so-called funk? And a lot of times people aren't, because they're not done with their grieving. So instead of trying to patch it over, I encourage them to get in touch with the grieving and get through that, and then we can get on with the healing.
Hey, I don't need any counseling. Me and my buds, we get together and, you know, have a smoke or something.
A lot of kids that tell me that they're not depressed, and I ask them, well, okay, why do you smoke marijuana so much? They say, I like smoking marijuana. What happens when you smoke marijuana? And they talk about feeling better, and I said, feeling better than what? And then that's when they can see that they were feeling bad before they started smoking the marijuana. And it kind of opened a door for us to talk about the depression.
By far, the most dangerous consequence of allowing depression to go untreated is suicide, a tragic event that ends thousands of young lives every year.
Suicide or suicidal attempts can be a cry for help. You know, like, hey, I'm out here. You know, notice me. Notice that I'm in pain. Help me. A child might not know any other way of saying it than by injuring themselves, or perhaps by injuring somebody else.
They're giving away their possessions, or saying, well, y'all not going to have me around much longer to pick on, or make statements, what would it be like if I wasn't around? Those kinds of things you should really look at, because they may be indicating that they have a real severe depression and could possibly be suicidal.
If you observe a friend or fellow student manifesting symptoms of depression or potential suicide as discussed in this program, please take it upon yourself to reach out to that student or to notify a teacher, counselor, or other adult who might be able to get that student some help.
Listen to them, because depressed people feel real isolated and alone. And having someone to talk to that won't ridicule them or make them feel like it's their fault or that they're exaggerating.
Or if you're not comfortable talking to them and saying, I'm concerned about you, you can always go to a close adult and talk to them. Maybe it's a family member, maybe it's a teacher. You might be very close to a teacher, and you can say, you know, my friend really needs, I'm worried about my friend, what should I do?
Peers will give them advice, but typically it won't be the kind of intervention that they need. It's like a feel-good therapy, which doesn't get at the roots or the causes. So they should talk to a counselor, a parent, if they trust them enough to talk to them, or a responsible adult that can get them the help that they need.
One of the main things for teenagers to remember is that you are not alone. You don't have to be alone. Sometimes teenagers are afraid to share their feelings and worries with other people, even their friends. But as soon as you do it, you find that you're not alone and that you can have a lot of support.